Actually, now that you put it that way, are you able to give me 2 seconds? Let me run downstairs and
Okay.
hook up. It's going to look odd, me having another drink and you having wine, and it's called unwine. So let me get up.
Please get yourself wine.
Let me get. Oh.
So
What's
what are
my
you
lighting
having?
like?
What are you having?
I'm having a Sauvignon Blanc. It's a Grand Cru Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay. I am having a 2017 Hoodoo Chenin Blanc. It's really
Very nice.
I'm actually
Very nice.
because
Sip it slowly.
I asked for South African owned wines, like black wines. So all of these ones that I've been drinking are from black wine farmers.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, I know a couple of people who run black wine estates. So yeah.
Oh, you know people. Is this like a hint that you will connect me so I can get some wines?
Well, I know they're in Cape Town. I don't know how you're gonna get it.
How this deliver?
You don't want to go back to the auction. That's your problem.
How am I gonna get it?
There's no alcohol in the auction.
All right. Well, firstly, welcome to Unwine with Fifi. People don't know you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank
you. My people don't know who you are.
Your people don't know who I am. My name is Rankin.
Yes.
And what else would you like to know? I'm the founder of a company called VMR Holdings that has a couple of companies in it. One of them is Value Add, and the other one is Elevate.
Yes. And Value Add is MPO, right? The one that.
No. So Value Add is both. It is both a commercial business and it has a foundational part to it. And the foundational part is designed to support those who want to donate to the principles of value add. But the commercial part is driven by the fact that now we have COVID. Any ideas of running around and asking for money are gone.
Yep.
You're going to have to start thinking about how to generate income.
How to generate.
So you're going to have to commercialize some of your foundational bases of how you were trying to get income and to get funding.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I think we've known each other now for 2 months. Is it 3 months? I think 3 mons.
January.
Is it
pre-COVID?
It's not January. It's February.
Yeah, because we met. I think we met. We met in January. And then February came, and then March was COVID. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. No.
That's how I get my timelines right now these days.
Before COVID. No, because I remember it was after I did that SABC One interview, but I don't remember when that was. So I think January makes sense because it's definitely January because the the application closing date for the school was in Feb. So it definitely was before that. Well, I think the one thing that obviously has brought us together and we continue to work together is our passion for the youth, especially, and helping the youth realize their fullest potential and how can we get them to that level. And that's what brought us together. You saw my profile,
yep.
And then I was like, okay, let me accept this person.
Yep.
And that became to it built to this friendship and this working relationship that we now have, which I think is like you don't get a lot of these, right? I mean, in this day and age that we live in, we don't get a lot of a work relationship between a 52-year-old and a 26-year-old, which, by the way,
yep.
I was thinking about it. I was like, if we ever open our own company, it should be something to do with 2 and 5, because I was 25 when we met and you're 52. If you flip that around, I was like,
Yes, yeah. Oh, hey, very clever, very good. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, but it's been really great, and I've learned a lot. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this YouTube channel initially was obviously the wine element. I love wine and I love sharing about wine. But also to bridge the gap between executives like yourself and the youth, the people who just coming straight from varsity, because I work with interns. That's my job. I coach them and all of that. but they don't necessarily get an opportunity to find a coach, a sponsor. I mean, some don't even know what a sponsor is. So how to look out for that,
Yeah.
building the networks and the relationships that I've built in my professional life, which have helped me to get to where I am right
Yep.
now. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, to bring people like yourself to this platform and share your journey, your career journey, how you got to where, what did you study initially? Because I know you've been around, you've been to Motorola, you did Apple, you've been around, but what did you initially study and what did you initially want to get into?
Right, that's a good question. I need to go right into the archives, back of the archives,
Yep.
where it's dark.
All the way.
When pull out that box and remember. So yeah, so look, mine is a bit of an interesting journey, and you're right. We bonded over the passion of the youth, and I've had that passion probably in my early 30s, and that was mainly because I saw just how challenged the youth were leaving, particularly universities, and entering work environments, and whether we're in work environments, getting into management environments, and they've just never been briefed, told, or given some kind of indication of the kind of things that we're going to change. So I studied psychology and what was then known as contemporary European studies, but it was the economics of the EEC, the EU, sorry, the European Union. And it was interesting because now I'm watching a little bit of the European Union collapsing, and then it was forming back in the early, well, say mid to early 80s. And I studied that in a university no one's going to have heard of. It's a university called Dundee University in Scotland, in the UK. And then I did my master's in arts. So my progression in life has nothing to do with that from a career point of view. Once I completed that went into the bottom drawer, and then I started off in sales, which is one of the most amazing starting points I had. I started off in sales in a company called Gillette, the best a man can get, selling razor blades and Oral-B toothbrushes, etc. back in the day. That was around about 1994. I had come back to South Africa from the UK in 1993 under the assumptions that because I had this master's degree and honors degree from a UK university, people were going to snap me up the moment I got to the airport. And I was unemployed for almost 10 months.
Yeah.
And then I landed my first job at Gillette. Lasted all of 9 months there, mainly because I was being led by somebody who didn't have any leadership skills whatsoever, and progressed from there to go to Westbank. And in Westbank, I was in a call center. So I've been a call center agent.
Me too.
With a master's degree.
Me too.
And I was there for a year and a half. I was the agent that called you when you didn't pay your premiums on your car. You got a call from me and said, hey, the premiums for the car. And then left that and went to BP. And this is probably where my career changed. Firstly, because I was deliberate about wanting to go to BP, something that just bugged me whilst I was at Westbank, saying, I want to work for BP, I want to work for BP. And when I got to BP, met an amazing boss. I was a sales rep there as well. And then met his boss, the regional manager, who just took me under his wing and changed the trajectory of my working career. Within a year and a half, had offered me a position as the area sales manager here in Gauteng. By the way, the story I was telling you before was all in Durban, so I had to move to Gauteng. I was about 28 at the time. And then was in BP for close to 3 years, and then left BP and went to SAB, where I had an amazing 4.5 years, and that was SAB in the late 90s, that was just the most phenomenal training ground for marketing, sales, distribution, production, all those wonderful things. And I was there at Old Mutual because I was headhunted at Old Mutual by SAA. And this is the glory days of SAA.
Not now.
This is when they didn't need bail money. These were the early 2000s. I had a fantastic time at SAA, became the vice president of global sales and marketing. So really did a lot of traveling, too much actually. And then left there to go join Motorola. And by then I just wanted a small packaged little corner broom closet job. So got myself a position as an executive account manager with no reports, having had probably, when I left SAA, I probably had close to 600 people under me. So I just really wanted to tone down. Got that job, didn't manage to tone down for too long because not long after that, I became the managing director of Motorola in South Africa. Okay. Was at Motorola for 9 years. Amazing opportunity, amazing growth time, very global organization. Left there to go and join a company called Stanton Chase. I was actually pinched because the person who owned Stanton Chase knew my passion for value add. And at that point, I'd been doing value add for about 8 years, and I now wanted to spend more time on it, and he gave me that opportunity. But I also had the opportunity to be in an executive search firm, which is critical in terms of truly understanding the dynamics of what it takes to become a CEO and executive, because those are the kind of people we were placing in this recruitment firm. So I interviewed over 500 CEOs, executives, CFOs, group HR, et cetera, et cetera. So I was able to inculcate some of the principles that made them successful so that I could impart that to the youth as well. Left there, went and joined AdCorp as the chief commercial officer. Was there for 18 months, and then in my 50s made a decision that since the rail track ahead of me is less than the rail track behind me, better make use of the time and do what I'm passionate and purposed to do, and that's why I ended up jumping into value add full time from the beginning of this year.
Wow,
that's my journey. And believe it or not, that's an executive summary.
No, I mean that is like such a. I think for somebody in my position, where I think I'm at that position where my career is just has just taken a jump start officially. To hear the journey that you've been in, and I'm thinking now, I hope at 50 I will have that track record as well, if not more. So that's a great story.
I'm sure you will.
I hope
you're on the right track.
Thank you. I want to go back to you mentioned when you went to, I think you said it's BP, where the general manager took you under your wing. Last week I was listening to an interview by Carla Harris, who's like the Khaleesi of Wall Street, basically. And she was talking about finding a sponsor and what you have to do to lead you to that position where somebody in the company notices you and spots you and says, that's the person that I would like to bring under my wing. What do you think are those qualities, for the qualities that you had, that you showed, that the general manager saw in you, and also for our youth, what is it that, the qualities that they can be working on for that one individual to spot them and say, that's the person that I want to build and potentially develop to have a career in the company?
Oh, sure. So it's a very good question. I think there are a couple of critical things. The one is that, and I'm doing this with hindsight now, so please don't assume that at the time I kind of knew this and this is the rail track I went on. And this is why I want to pass this on to young people so that they get a sense of what they should be doing. The one thing was that I developed some very strong guided principles. And I use these guided principles from the time, and just to take you a little bit of a step back, I failed my first time when I wrote Matric. I wrote exams called A levels, which were your university entrance exams, right? And these university entrance exams when I was living, at the time I was living in Zimbabwe. I lived in Zimbabwe for 4 years. I failed, and I failed them badly. And that was when my parents kicked me out of my house and, told me to go and sort my life out and sent me to the UK. Now that might sound like not quite a great, a difficult imprisonment when you're kicked out of Zim to go to the UK, but I went to the UK knowing nobody. I went literally alone, knowing nobody. I had to hold 2 jobs to keep myself going. And then had to wait a whole year before I started school again because the schooling timetables were very different. When I went there in February thinking I was starting, in the UK they're actually finishing because they write their main exams in around about May. So that was a very difficult time for me, very difficult. But I started developing some very guided principles. And the first one that I recall was that I'd never fail something twice if I'd failed before. The second guiding principle that actually really I touch on quite a bit in terms of which I joined when I joined starting to work was that I never wanted money to be a guiding principle for me whatsoever. So to that extent, I have never negotiated a salary ever in my life.
Wow.
So from each job that I've gone to, I've shown them my payslip from my previous job. And I've told them that that's what I earned before. I don't want to earn less. Whatever you give me, I'll take it. And that was it. So if they gave me 2%, 5%, 10%, I'd never fight. And that was even with promotions, etc. So I think to answer your question, one of the critical things that you need to be able to have are some guiding principles that people can view and see. I was very, very interested in one of the big things I wanted to do was consistently rub shoulders with people who I could absorb information from.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with these guys, and they probably just wondered why is the sales rep doing hanging around us. But at the end of the day, I spent a lot of time with these guys in order to try and digest information from them, in order to try and get information from them, et cetera, et cetera. So I think they saw me. I think they saw my enthusiasm. I think they understood that I was beginning to develop some very strong principles that I've continued to build on over time. And I was lucky.
Yeah.
And I was lucky.
No,
never discount the factor of luck in all this.
Luck plays a role, it does.
And I was at the right time at the right place. I thought of a company that I wanted to go to. And I truly believe God guides you in particular directions. And if you pay attention and listen, because I'd have never met Paul Hancock, who I'm still in touch with to this day. And every single time I have any celebration, family or otherwise, that is of any significance, I always send him a message and remind him that almost 25 years ago, he changed the trajectory of my life. And I live my life today a lot to do with the fact that he had so much confidence in me. So it's very, very important to set yourself guiding principles. It's very, very important to put yourself in the right place. And most importantly, it's very important to listen to the direction God's guiding you, and not try and bypass those roads and those avenues.